Hi, my name's Jason. I am a professional illustrator and learning designer, and I've been involved in education for a number of years. I wanted to put together a short video that explained how Clip Studio Paint is actually quite a serious contender for being a proper animation tool. I've been looking online and seeing lots of YouTube tutorials where various people are talking about it, often at quite a basic level, and often on Reddit, people saying things like, can it be used? Is it any good? What's the basic stuff that you need? How do you get into it? And I thought I'd just share where I'm at the moment on a production of an independent project called Seed. And I thought I'd just share with you some of where I'm at and just how I set up the application. I'm not going to go through all the very basic stuff. There are a few online courses. Reuben Lara has a course on Gumroad, which is really good for getting you into that. And I would also recommend Grigg for just basically walking through the principles of animation. I've used Grigg's masterclass course, and he uses Rough Animator, which is a pixel-based animation tool. In Clip Studio Paint, you can actually use their own proprietary vector tools, which look basically very close to analog tools, and they really make a massive difference. What I did is I went through Alex's course and I transposed a lot of the skills and processes and stages that he talks about in that application, and I converted it into Clip Studio Paint. I just wanted to show you some of my interface working and how I think through things and where I'm at. Now, of course, this may all crash and burn at some point in the future. I'm not sure how successful this project's going to be. I've done a lot of preparation and work with it, and it may be amazing, it may be terrible, but certainly I thought it was worth sharing with people online where I'm at and how I'm using things, and I hope that something of what I say here will be useful to you. So what you see straight away, I'm screen recording an iPad Pro. It's the largest one. I do actually work on an 11-inch iPad Pro, but I've decided to use this one because there's just a lot more screen estate on the page. I also prefer to use an iPad compared to one of the Wacom or those sorts of tablets connected to a PC or a Mac, basically because it is fast enough. And the interface is just, it bypasses a whole bunch of things. I'm also using an Apple Pencil Pro, and the principle here is to take things away from clicking through menus as much as possible. What are the shortcuts? What are the best ways of accessing quick ways of thinking when you're animating? Now, Grigg goes through all the sorts of different processes that make animation more straightforward and less daunting, even though it is still going to be very daunting. It's the purest level of creation and very hard to think through, but so rewarding. It's an incredible thing to do. But actually what I'm going to just show you here is just how I set up my Clip Studio Paint for animation. So the first thing is, if you notice on the side of the screen, I use shortcut tabs. I actually only use T1 and T2 for different brush sizes. I've just got into a habit of using that. There's no other reason for that. The other thing I did is that when I did Reuben Lara's course, he suggested a whole bunch of quick access things. So if you notice here, going down this bit, you can see it's highlighted as I hover the pen over it. You see he has a bunch of onion skin settings where it's just one frame behind, one frame after, one before, one after, two before and two after, and five before and five after, and he flips between those. Now, I set all this up, and there's other things like putting track timeline labels, lengthening things by frames. Now, the thing is that he was using this and clicking things on quite a big screen. As big as the iPad screen is, I found it's actually easier to convert those into the quick actions menu. So if I just go up to here, to auto actions, where is it? Auto actions, there you go, there's the auto actions menu. What I've done here is I've actually created a bunch of things where I've recorded shortcuts, and then having done that, I've then gone to the shortcut menu, which is up here, shortcut settings, and I've created a whole bunch of, so look into Rammer actions here. I basically changed things so that it's just a simple keystroke. So the other thing that's really worth saying is that I use basically a Bluetooth keyboard. In this case, I've just got a folding one which just opens. It's quite useful if I'm out and about or if I want to just work more flexibly. Having a Bluetooth keyboard is absolutely essential, and figuring out what the various keys are. So I've got a bunch of things here. I've got some of my own notes here. There's a bunch of keys that I've assigned to certain regular tasks. Now, Grigg was really helpful in helping me get to this point. I'll show you what some of those other bits are. So on menu commands under the animation menu, you can see here that, for example, a new animation cell is a 3. Rename the timeline order, because that's something that comes up with Clip Studio. As you begin to create lots of fresh animation cells, the numbering goes a bit weird, and actually to have just a quick shortcut, I use that quite a lot. 2 different ways of navigating the timeline. One is to press the A key to go to the previous cell, the D to go to the next cell. These are ones I've assigned myself. But also, if there's another way where you're simply going from frame to frame, which is also quite useful depending on which timeline you're on. And I also have a couple of playback settings. So Z takes me back to the start of the timeline, and X plays and stops. So what I've done here is I've tried to convert everything that I use a lot into, and there are about 2 or 3 other shortcut settings, to keyboard shortcuts. I have tried animating things where you go to the menu, but it takes so long, and in the end you just get really tired. And actually to have something very quick like this is a game changer. So I fully recommend, in fact I would say, don't bother animating unless you have a Bluetooth keyboard. And that's why those overly priced Apple branded special keyboards, I would never get one of those, because you can't actually set it up and draw comfortably. I have something that I can just tuck under a normal trifold folder and then just tuck that under, and I just use it alongside it. So let me just take you through this example. So having said all that, here is what you have here is a piece of work where this is really what I've done here is I've just created a sequence of animation to a piece of music that I've already edited, and I've had the rights approved for it. And if I just show you, if I just play it through, so it involves a little character who sees this object flying, and what you have here is you can hear the music playing in the background, and at the top there's the timeline which is showing you it, and this character's looking up. And what I've done here is I've worked hard to try and get the timing and the feel right. Now the thing is that this, so if I just sort of pause that here, what I have here is a whole bunch of other stuff underlying it. So if I just show you some of this, here are a bunch of background frames where I already previously drew. So you see this character is much more simple. I'll add in, he's got a kind of a tail and a bag. These are sort of secondary animated elements which I'll bring in later, but the first important bit is to figure out what's the primary motivation, what's the primary movement, where is it coming from, which arm or leg is driving, which head movement is driving the action. And later on I'll take a second pass and put another rough timeline in. So at the moment it's just in a rough pencil sort of mood, but the point is to get the feeling right, to get the movement right. And then if you see here, if I just keep playing it, he's running back along, he picks up a bag. And then when the music starts playing a bit further on, so look, I've got a bit where he runs up this thing. Oh, he's looking at a thing here. Here we go, look. There's a whole bunch of frames coming up now. So you see him running up. Now look, the actual animation is different to what I'd planned. But actually you see that here he is. He's doing kind of a classic bit of parkour, rock climbing. And here he is. I wanted to just, I was just trying to get in the feel. This is kind of what's called straight ahead animation. So it's a kind of combination of me just improvising stuff, and then, so like this bit here, there's 2 separate timelines. So there's 2 separate timelines here. One of them is a C. So if you look at the top here, there's actually the orange, the green line is the seed being animated. And what I did is I animated them separately and did one a bit and then I did the other a bit, and then I've put them together in this way. So this bit here where he jumps and it kind of flops up into the air, there you go. I don't know if that's even a word, but there you go. That's how that works. And you can compress these down. So I've got these here compressed down into one folder just for ease of use. And one of the sort of beautiful things about Clip Studio Paint is that you can take an entire folder and convert it to different colours. So if you notice here now, that entire folder. Now I use this later when I do when I'm doing sort of shading. I sometimes will convert it to some of the. With one click, you can just change the entire folder to a certain effect, and it's actually a massive time-saving thing. So one other thing I just want to share before I finish, because we're getting into 10 minutes now, is what happens when, and this is a thing that Alex Grigg talks about, is one of the things that you've got to be really careful about when you're animating something is that you keep the volume of your thing moving. So at several points as I've been animating, I've got this kind of background guide to give me a sense of what the rough shape and size of the figure should be. But I have occasionally just gone a bit carried away and it's become much bigger. So to resize things, what I would then do is, so here on frame 212, so with the Pencil Pro, I've actually suddenly become quite addicted to it because you can actually attribute a squeeze to changing it between the last tool. So here I've got my tools along the top. With Clip Studio Paint, you can basically completely individualize all of the elements. So I've just got this set up how I personally like to use it. But here with the Apple Pencil Pro, you can actually click between two menu items as I'm doing now. I'm just clicking the pencil and you see it swapping between them. And the two I'd swap between are this vector tool. So all my layers are vectors. And I select that, and I could actually just with a keyboard thing just quickly resize it and then go to the next frame, quickly size that, go to the next frame, or even take one part of it and quickly move it. And actually what ends up happening is you can actually create adjustments to layers, you can tweak things, and they retain the quality of the line work. It's actually really fantastic. Now, of course, these things get very complex as it moves on, and it can begin to slow things down. So I think having a fairly quick machine is quite important. I've got one more thing I need to say to you about, which is just telling you about where this project eventually will end up. So there's a few things I've noticed on Reddit recently where people are trying to animate an 8-minute pop song, and they've started off, they've imported the audio and they're just working the way through, and of course everything is slowing right down, and people are saying just work in smaller clips. And it is also possible to have a 2D camera within Clip Studio Paint. Now personally, I'm not going to do any of that. What I've done here is I've got a canvas that's a bit bigger than a 4K canvas, and sometimes I've made something that's a lot wider than a 4K canvas. And what I've done is I've taken it through the whole animation process, and then when it comes to exporting batch process, well, what I've done is I've taken it through and exported every single frame as a transparent PNG. And then what I've done is I've imported it into Apple Motion in this case. I don't use any Adobe products. I've given up on those many years ago. So I use the Affinity suite, and I also use Apple Motion, which I figured out a way of using it as a compositing tool. Now, it's not as fancy as After Effects, and there's lots of people who will die on that hill saying that one is terrible and the other's great. But actually, I've managed to get it to work really well. And how I intend to use this is create an animated sequence that's on a much bigger canvas, and then do my camera work later as I zoom in on particular bits of action. And I'm also going to incorporate different kinds of vector animation that I will do primarily through Apple Motion. So as you can see, with these bits of Tamil text that appear in this animation, I probably will have them animating later. But what I'm doing here is I'm just animating on a kind of top layer, which I will then build up in various layers, various passes as I go. So I'm going to post one or two other videos as I go. I'm going to be working on this probably across the next year in my spare time, in between my day job and my various responsibilities. But I will post the odd thing and show something about how the process is going. Hopefully this will go through to completion, because the picture that I've got, the storyline I've got, is really exciting. But I'm also excited about the use of the technology, and I think Clip Studio Paint is a really, really fantastic tool. And I think it has got massive potential. It's just there is a bit of a learning curve, and I would say learning the interface and how to put it into something that you can use, but also understanding the key processes and the key thought patterns for wise 2D animation are really, really important. So to that end, I hope I've encouraged you a little, and I know there'll be one or two people out there who might watch this who hopefully will find this a helpful support, as I'm just someone who's just trying to do my best with this. Anyway, all the best, and I hope it goes well for you.